Hello! Greetings from the Millennium Falcon. I am up in cyberspace. Actually, I'm in cyberspace. That's kind of interesting. Hello, guys. I miss you all so much. I'm so grateful that you're all joining here today. I am in Norway, in Bergen in Norway, shooting the second season of Lykkeland, or State of Happiness, as it's known in English. And I see Jen. My first question from Jen, can you tell us a little bit about season 2 of Lykkeland? I can tell you a little bit about it. It's set between 77 and 81. So we get to dress up in these lovely, crazy 70s type costumes. I have super long locks. Normally I'm shaven, and I've got these great glasses. Anyone that's seen the first season, that was set like 10 years before that. It's all about the oil industry in Norway and how it changed Norway from a very poor country on the periphery of Europe to the country as it is today, which is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and how oil changed the whole face of the country. And it's really interesting doing a historical show that's also a drama, so you get to kind of learn a little bit about their history as well as be back at work. Holy moly, it's so good to be back at work. Everyone is, as I was saying to the people in my meet and greet earlier on, everyone is going through their own, personal kind of woes at the moment. We've all experienced COVID in different ways, some worse than others. I thankfully had some great times during COVID. I got married, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, I'm sure. And then we moved to Ireland in August. And been basically to be in preparation for this show that I'm shooting right now. And as I was saying, everyone has kind of finished Netflix a couple of times at this point, so someone has to be making more content, and thankfully I'm one of the lucky ones. I know Jared went back to work 4 days ago, or 5 days ago, I think. It's great. It's great to be back at work and having a sense of purpose again. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm not very grateful that we haven't a vaccine, and I don't know when we're going to be seeing each other again in the capacity that we always enjoy so much. I know it basically just happened right after Vegas Con last year, and Jesus, it's been a crazy few months. But I didn't know how much I would miss my SPN family until this happened, and I'm just dying to get back at it, dying to get back in the circuit, make a show of myself on the karaoke stage, and just say hello to everyone again, say hello to all you guys. But sorry, Jen, to get back to your question, yeah, it covers those 4 year spans. So if you know anything about the Norwegian oil history or the history of Norway in that time, it covers some things that you may know of, yeah, I have a bigger role to play in this season than I had the last season, which is also great. But we're not shooting the main body of the show until January in Lithuania. We're, guys, with tax incentives and stuff, a lot of these countries in Eastern Europe provide big tax incentives. So I'm getting to go there for 4 months from January until April, and I just feel spoiled at the moment to be able to not only go to a place that I've never been, but also to be back working. So it's all great. Amanda Jane, do you have any funny memories from the Supernatural set? I think a lot of people are going to be a bit tired of these answers, because I have, it's been so long since I've been on a Supernatural set, but literally every day there was a funny memory from every day being on set, if it was from Jared's fart machine in the car, which was rather hilarious, to, I don't know, the last day on set was one of the best days I've ever had. When we shot that scene when Dagon came down, and it was just a very action-packed scene. So that's one of my favorite memories. We shot one scene for 14 hours that day because it was such a complicated action scene, and at the very end of it, if you watched any of the outtakes that the post-production crew used to make, when I was holding the gun at Jared and Jensen and Jensen was trying to move turn baby around, but he couldn't turn it around quick enough. So it ended up being one of those scenes like from Austin Powers. So he would go like this way and then turn the wheel because there's no power steering in Baby, obviously. So he'd turn the wheel and he'd move back a little bit, move forward, move back. It was really hilarious. You kind of had to be there, but if you watch the video, you can see it. Adam, what's it like being back in work? And am I enjoying working with Bart Edwards again? I really am. Bart, he's wonderful guy. His hotel room is right beside my hotel room. We see each other every day. We hang out every day, and it's a real pleasure to be working so closely with someone on set and get on so well with them off set as well. It not only does it add to the to the scenes that we're doing, if we're given quite a bit of freedom to improv as well, and it's better when you trust the person implicitly and you can really kind of lean into that side of things, and as well as going to the gym and having a gym buddy, having a buddy to go for drinks with in the evening and go for dinner with. And thankfully my wife has now come out to join us as well, so I have an abundance of companionship, so it's all been great. What's your favorite thing about Mick, or what's your current favorite song? Well, my current favorite song has to be Look at Me, I'm Sandra D, because I won an award last night for best costume, if you can see that. Best costume in a bar in Norway, in Bergen. I dressed up as Sandra D, and if I can find a photo that's not completely inappropriate, I was wearing a Sandra D wig. It's around here somewhere. And I sang Look at Me, I'm Sandra D in karaoke, which was, I watched it back this morning. One should never watch back their karaoke songs from the night before, because in my mind, I nailed it. This morning, watching it back, not so much. Really not so much. It was quite mortifying. And I hope not too many people outside of my wife has a recording of it, because it was car crash, absolute car crash. But listen, I still won an award. Last little plastic Halloween type trophy that I'm going to cherish. I really don't think I was the best costume. I think it was more for effort rather than anything else. But I thought my favorite thing about Mick, I don't know. I like the fact that he was a good guy. I was watching Misha and Jared and Jensen did a Zoom call with Senator Amy Klobuchar and Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter, the other day. I don't know if anyone watched it, but if you did, one of the things Misha said was like, he's trying to compare, the Biden campaign with, Supernatural, and how we can make a correlation. And he said that the three of them always had, they were fighting for the forces of good in the world. They were always trying to fight for good. And I think the beauty about Mick was that although he was brought up a certain way in Hendrix and Kendricks is the gin. He was inherently a good guy, and it's fun to play those kind of characters and to be one of the good guys. And as I've said umpteen times, I think his time was cut short, but I don't know. It's I always look back at it in fond memories. The way he went out, he went out with such on a high, and he got to tell off, Dr. Hess in the end, and I thought his arc was quite complete. Even if I wanted to be on the show a little bit longer, for selfish reasons, I thought, he had a complete arc, and he did get to kind of, get some fulfillment for all the pain and suffering he had growing up in that school. Teresa de Piero, Adam, question: have you been binge watching any shows during quarantine? Oh my God, yes, all of the shows. I probably watched The West Wing again. What else did I watch? Jesus, it's been so. I watched a lot of movies. Actually, we try to watch a lot of kind of discipline ourselves, watch some old classics. I watched Network, the one that sticks out. I watched Veep all over again as well. And then Mandalorian I watched. I got the whole Disney Plus thing or whatever that's called, and watched a whole load of Disney movies, a lot of old Disney movies, and it was kind of real pleasant. We tried to watch stuff that was quite happy and rather than adding to the depression that was COVID. So we tried to kind of avoid that as best we could. But it's safe to say that I watched a lot of television. What's your favorite thing? Madonna's son. What's your favorite thing on cons? My favorite thing on cons. I've always loved these. I've always loved the panels. Like it's great when David is there with me, so we can kind of bounce off each other and we can actually see you guys. I love that interaction. I love a big crowd in a big room. It's just hearing that kind of laughter back. Getting that. I've always said that about conventions. We have. I did a lot of theater growing up, and it was one thing that you don't get from TV. Is you get that instant kind of reaction from the audience, be it during the play with laughter or applause, but at the end of the play, you can always sense, if you do a show, like sometimes you're doing a show, you might do over 6 months, you might do 100 shows or so. And you can really gauge the audience response every night, at the end of the play when, not only if they get up and give you a standing ovation, but also there's just the enthusiasm in the response, and you can really taste the atmosphere during a play, and you don't get that doing TV at all. And I've always said that about Supernatural, and the experience that's provided, or the con experience that's subsequently provided, has been just immeasurable. It's like being back on stage to a certain degree, especially at the panels. You get to kind of, really feel the audience's laughter and applause and the questions and all that jazz. But I do love the meet and greets as well. I love the repeat offenders that come back to hear myself and David when we're doing them together, and even me on my own, to just listen to my age-old, probably retelling of stories, rehashing of jokes. But yet you still come back. So it must be funnier than I thought. Effulgent. What was it like working with Erin Carplock? Erica Carplock. The show was called Being Erica, but her name is Erin Carplock. Adam was one of my favorite characters I've ever seen. Oh, thanks so much. I loved that show. I really, really did. There was actually a big write-up on the show a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times. And it's such a unique show. Anyone that hasn't seen it, if you're stuck for something to watch, and I know some of us are at the moment, search it out. It's a great show. It's a show that I'm super, super proud of. It was that point in my career. I was living in London, and I'd come back to Dublin to do a play. I was doing Les Liaisons Dangereuses, Dangerous Liaisons, basically in a theatre in Dublin. And I was kind of contemplating, London, I was always hit and miss for me working in London. And I was wondering, was I going to go back there? I always wanted to move to the States. And so it was around the time, it was 2010, beginning of 2010. And it was around the time of the ash cloud. Anyone that knows the ash cloud that happened in Iceland. So I'd flown to London to audition for the show. And then they sent the audition tape over to Canada, where it was filmed in Toronto. They sent the tape over, and immediately they got straight back, and they said, "Where is he? He's in London. Don't let him fly back to Dublin," because all the airports were closing. So I wasn't allowed to go back to Dublin. And then on the Monday morning, this was like a Friday, and I stayed there for the weekend. And on the Monday, they called me and said I had got the part, and they wanted me to fly that Friday from London, but I wasn't to go back to Dublin because Dublin Airport was closing because of the ash cloud. And so I got a friend who was flying over. He was coming over anyway for business, and I got my mum, because I only came over with like a little rucksack, just my laptop and a couple of clean pairs of underwear, and then on the Friday he comes over with a bag that my mum packed for me. So my mum packed this bag, clothes. I hadn't lived at home. I just had thrown some stuff at home, but I hadn't lived at home in 5 years. I'd been living in London before that for 5 years, and so she packed this bag of clothes for me. And he came over on the Friday, and I flew to Toronto the next day. And I got to Toronto, opened my bag, and I was like, most of these clothes are my little sister's clothes. What was she thinking? I was picking out things that I'd never seen before. I think she just emptied some of my drawers into a bag. And anyway, that was my first experience landing in Toronto. But I have to say, it was like the reason that show meant so much to me was my first lead on a show that was televised in the States, in North America, and it had such a big following. And the character I played was just a great character. Adam, the show is basically about this girl who has been given the ability to go back in time and fix any regrets that she has. And then she meets my character who also has this ability, and they go on these adventures together, and it's super fun show. It's got a lot of morals. I think like knowing a lot of you like I do of the SBN family, I think it's a show that would be right up your alley. It's got so much heart. It's got so much love, and it's each episode has its own kind of moral. It's something that I'd love to go back and do. I did hear a rumor that they were making an American version of the show, and I would love to be brought back in for that. But it's a great show. Thanks for that, Eva. What's the strangest word you've learned in Norwegian? Also, have you learned any Swedish? We are slightly better than Norwegians. I heard you're pretty fun. I do have a couple of Swedish friends, and they're tremendous fun. And the plan was actually, when we finished here, our plan was to go to Sweden for a while. But, morally, like with everything else at the moment, you're just kind of thinking, what's the best thing to do? What's the most, responsible thing to do? And so we're just going to go back to Ireland and quarantine for 2 weeks, because the plan is to go to visit my older sister lives in Cape Town in South Africa with her husband and 3 kids. And I haven't seen her in about 3 years, and I just, I really hope I get there. So we just want to make sure we're safe and quarantined as much as we can. Ireland is back in a full lockdown, so we're just gonna not go to Sweden, just hunker down. But I haven't learned any strange words in Norwegian, I don't think. One strange word in Norwegian is ganza. That's for jumper. So your we call it jumper, like your sweater, right? It's called a ganza. In the Irish language, it's called ganzi. It might not be as fascinating to you as it is to me, but like there's a lot, because the Vikings invaded Ireland many years ago. We share a lot of the a lot of words. There's a lot of similarities in our words, and that was one of them. If I missed one, Shania, in Clean Break, I missed that one. Sorry. In Clean Break, do you think Frank managed prison well? This is another show I did, an Irish show. It's really short. You can probably get it pretty easily. It's like 4 episodes. It's going to ruin it for you now. But yeah, this kind of ruins it. But I don't know. There was supposed to be a second season of that show, actually, Shania. And he was. I didn't get to see any of the scripts, but I think he did serve like a 5 or 6 year term in prison. I don't think he managed it very well. No, it wasn't. Prison and Frank were like oil and water. Like he just wouldn't have survived well in prison at all. What's the strange? Oh, we had that one. Are you enjoying my hometown, Bergen, Norway? I really, really am. It's a great town. We found our local little restaurants. It's called the Daily Pot, and they have like one of my work colleagues is a vegan, so they've got plenty of vegan options and plenty of healthy options. And sometimes I get very lazy and don't eat very healthy, and this is like a really healthy option. It's a great city. I had a lovely night last night, as I've said. I won the award for best costume in a lovely bar called the Brian Baru, which is an Irish bar. I went for a lovely walk or hike up one of your mountains. So Bergen is surrounded by 7 mountains. They kind of encircle, and that's why it's so wet here. And they have these just amazing hikes up these mountains. So I've been up the mountain quite a bit, and had a real had a real lovely walk in the rain. But there's no such thing as bad weather in Norway. There's only the wrong clothes, as someone very famously once said. Do you think Sam and Mick could have had more bonding time, seeing as they were nerd best friends? Yes, completely. I really do. And the funny thing is, myself and Jared have had so many nerdy conversations outside of Supernatural that I think we would have lent itself well. I think Sam and Mick would have gone on well. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Mick came back for some more episodes, if he hadn't been shot in the back of his head by someone who he considered a friend. I think they would have had a proper bonding time. Maybe gone to a few libraries together. Hung out in that regard. Learned more of the lore. Nerded through a few books. But yeah, I definitely think that you're on the money there.